Welcome to Below the Frame. I am Matt Vogel, and today I'm going to talk about a couple of crazy weeks that I had, almost exactly what was this time last year. If you remember, May 10th of 2023 saw the premiere of the Muppets Mayhem on Disney+, all episodes now streaming. So in the days leading up to that premiere, there was publicity that we had to do for the show, and we did publicity in New York City, in LA, and in London. Now, I'm going to get to all of that in a second, but adding to that, a couple of days after the May 10th premiere of Muppets Mayhem, all episodes now streaming on Disney+, on May 13th, I became a doctor. Yes, that is right. Dr. Matt Vogel. And I should be very clear here. I am not in no way am I a doctor of medicine, of philosophy, of anything like that. I did not go to a school to become a doctor, but I was given an honorary doctorate from Webster University in St. Louis, which is where I went to college and it's where I studied, and I earned a BFA in acting about 30 years ago. And back then it was called the Conservatory of Theater Arts at Webster University in St. Louis, Missouri. And now it's called Webster University's Sargent Conservatory of Theater Arts in honor of the founding dean of the College of Fine Arts, Peter Sargent. And now how it happened that I got asked to do this commencement speech was in January of 2023, I was asked by the chancellor of Webster University, Beth Strobel. She asked me if I would deliver the address at that year's graduation in May. And I hadn't ever really done anything like that, but I said, of course, I'd be honored to give the speech, give the address. So I started working on the speech, and it was going to be like, 12, 15 minutes or so in length. And I asked for help from two friends of mine, Hunter Bell, who's an amazing writer of books for musicals, including Otherworld and Now Hear This and Silence the Musical and Title of Show, which ran on Broadway. And I love Hunter. Hunter and my wife Kelly and I, we all went to Webster University together. We all studied acting. We were all in the same class. So we have known each other since we were 18. And I also asked for help from another friend named Susan Blackwell, who's a very close friend of Hunter's. And she is an incredible actor, and she's a co-creator of The Spark File, which started as a podcast, but now it has grown to be a whole creative endeavor with coaching and workshops, and it's just incredible. If you have something, you should check it out. You really should check out the website, because it's just filled with a lot of creative ideas and opportunities for you if you are a creative person. And I have known Susan since I was part of the creative team for a web series called The Title of Show, which tracked the musical Title of Show's journey to Broadway. I love creating with Hunter and Susan, and I thought that they might be able to help me with my commencement speech. So I asked them, and they were both so helpful, and they were so giving of their support. And I'm just grateful for both of them for helping me out and gently guiding me along the way. So May 13th, that was the day of the commencement in St. Louis, and Webster wanted me to be there in St. Louis for press and for whatnot ahead of time, which normally would have been easy. But as I mentioned to you at the top of the show, we had publicity for Muppets Mayhem to do ahead of this in 3 different cities. So let's dig into that. On May 2nd and 3rd in New York City, we did a bunch of interviews and publicity for the Mayhem series, bits for Disney D23, like a behind the band with the Electric Mayhem bit. We did a song association bit for Elle magazine. We did interviews with Yahoo Entertainment and The Laughing Place and Metro UK and A Consequence and Yahoo Entertainment. We did all of those things and more, so many more. And I'm going to include links to those interviews in the show notes so that you can watch them if you want. But they're all really fun, and we did them as a group. Everybody was there standing, mostly improvisational. A few things were written, but it's kind of fun doing these things together, these publicity moments. And I think you'll see it when you watch them, if you get a chance to see them. There are a bunch of others out there, I'm sure. So if you want, just maybe leave comments for others to watch, like other links. And then so that was the second and third. And then on the evening of the third, I flew to London for a couple of events. Now, as a side note, it was an overnight flight to London. So when I got in, it was morning there, like 9 a.m. in the morning, and we didn't have any press that day. It was a day off. So I decided that instead of going to the hotel and sleeping, I would go walk around London, which I did all day long. I went everywhere. I feel like I went everywhere. I'm a big Beatles fan, so I went to Abbey Road and I walked across the famous crosswalk. I went to a bunch of record stores because I'm a big vinyl fan. And I was exhausted by the end of the day. I mean, I walked miles and miles, or kilometers and kilometers, and my feet were killing me. But it was such a fun day. I'm so glad that I did it. It was just me by myself roaming around London. It was great. Okay, so the next day, May 5th, Eric Jacobson and we did some Floyd and Animal publicity for the Muppets Mayhem series. We did it at a hotel in London. And it was one of those things where it's a little different than what we did in New York City just a few days prior. This time was, instead of being in a studio, we were set up in a hotel room, and different interviewers came to us, and we talked. And we did interviews with BAFTA and RadioTimes and OnDemand Entertainment, and I mean a bunch of many more. And I'll include a few links in the show notes as well. This is provided I can figure out how to do that. Anyway, our group then went to my favorite restaurant in all of London called Giovanni's, which is an Italian restaurant, and it is owned and run by Pino Ragona, who is just such a warm and lovely person. And every time I go to London, I go to Giovanni's to have the food that Pino makes. And my wife Kelly and I, we have been going to Giovanni's since we first went to London back in 2000. And we went to the restaurant on a recommendation from Kelly's father. It's just great. We love Giovanni's. So that was a great night. And also, while we were in London, Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy were there, and they were to appear at the King's Coronation concert, which is this big celebration. I think it's the day after King Charles was made king. No, it was the day that he was made king. It was that day. It was that evening. And so in our group, it was me, it was Eric, and from the Muppet Studio, David Lightbody, Lee Slaughter, Michael Steinbach, and Frank Riefschneider were there. Plus, we had the amazing Louise Gold and Warwick Brownlow Pike that were both there to assist us, and it was great. Just to see them was just fantastic. And we also had them helping us out for the Animal and Floyd stuff the day before. So they were now out. I don't even know where we were. We were way out. We were at Windsor Castle. I think that's where we were. We were out in Windsor, and we were at Windsor Castle on the grounds where they had this huge stage set up. And Kermit and Miss Piggy appeared in the concert in a bit with Hugh Bonneville, who was in Muppets Most Wanted, coincidentally. And then at the end of the concert, when the group Take That was performing, Kermit the Frog was in the royal box along with the king and his family. It was very cool. It was very weird, but it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. So it was just nonstop. And one last thing about my trip to London, I saw a taxi that was wrapped with Kermit and the Kermit Oris watch. And it was just really crazy and wild to see that out. I was in a car myself. I looked to my right, and there was this taxi, and there was Kermit and the watch, just driving right by me. It was insane. Anyway, that was London. So we flew from London to LA on the 8th of May for more Muppets Mayhem publicity, as we were hoping to do anyway. But unfortunately, that did not happen because of the writer's strike, which was necessary and very important. And that was just the way it was. And that was okay. We did, however, a small screening for the Muppets Mayhem. And that is where I got to meet Weird Al. Even though we were in Muppets Mayhem together and we shared a scene together, or Weird Al shares a scene with Floyd, he shot his part in New York after I had shot my part in LA, which was a bummer because I really wanted to meet Weird Al. I just love Weird Al. I wanted to meet him. And when I was told, oh yeah, well, Weird Al's going to do this part, I was like, oh my gosh, I get to meet Weird Al. This is going to be amazing. And then they were like, he's going to do his part in New York. So I didn't get to meet him when we were shooting, but I did get to meet him that night at the screening. And thankfully, I got to tell him how much he meant to me. You know, in my life, I have these 4 comedy pillars, and they are the Muppets and Steve Martin and Monty Python and Weird Al Yankovic. It's like the perfect combination of things for me. And it's just, I love all of those things. So this was a big moment, and I got to tell him this, and he was so gracious and so sweet. He took pictures with me and my friends, and yeah, he was just the best. Oh, and I got to show him the scene that we were in because he hadn't seen it yet. I got to show him on my phone the scene, which was pretty cool too. So that was LA. Finally, I was off to St. Louis on the 11th to get ready to deliver this commencement address that I remember that. I was talking about that earlier. I had been told that upon my arrival, they wanted me to do some publicity for Webster, for the university, and for the fact that I was going to be giving this speech at the graduation. So that afternoon, I had a TV interview followed by a local chat show called Donnybrook, and I'll link to the Donnybrook appearance in the notes, again, if I can figure out how to do that. It was really fun. It was a really wild, crazy, nonstop time. The 12th, the Friday, I had the morning off, and this happened to be the release day of the Electric Mayhem vinyl album. So I naturally had to go out and see if I could find the record out in the world. And I found it at Target, it's cool to see something that we all worked on, you know, out there in a store for people to get and listen to. And I love this record. I love the art. I love the songs on it. I think everybody sounds amazing. The song choices, the covers, the originals, they're all fantastic. I mean, I just really love it, and I'm so proud of it. And it's a perfect companion to the Muppets Mayhem series. All episodes now streaming on Disney+. That afternoon, I had 2 radio interviews, a graduation rehearsal, 2 print interviews, and another live TV interview. I mean, these were all for the graduation. It wasn't about Muppets Mayhem, you know. It was really just about the graduation, which to me is crazy that anybody would want to talk to me about giving a commencement speech, but this is the world we live in. I loved it, and everybody was so nice, and I had a great time. So that night, that Friday night, my family arrived, not just my wife and our 5 kids, but my brother Jason and his partner Maria came in, my mom and her husband Steve came in, my mother-in-law and her husband, along with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law and their families. My buddy Hunter that I talked about earlier was there, along with our friend Gretchen, whom we all went to Webster with. And just to have so many members of my family there and friends there, it was very moving to me. People traveled from Louisville and Kansas City and New York, and it was just very special. So the day of the commencement, Saturday the 13th, beautiful day, perfect weather. And it was odd to have this kind of attention as me, not as a character that I'm playing or hiding behind. It's kind of the way that normally that's the way that I get attention is, through the characters that I portray. But this time it was me. And I would say that I am typically in my life a pretty shy person when it comes to being outgoing and talking to people. And so I put on a persona when I have to do that. It's just a thing I do just to make it okay for me to be able to talk to people. It's kind of like I'm doing now, really. It's this persona that I'm putting on. It's kind of like a mask. It's like an alias. This is me, but it's just the confident version of me. And I just have to wear like a different attitude. It can be difficult sometimes, but I think maybe I'm sure you know what I'm talking about here. I'm sure some of you do the same thing, and it's just kind of what we have to do to get through the day sometimes. So even though this has been online for a year now, I am going to end this episode with that graduation speech that I gave to the Webster graduates. But before I do, I would like to acknowledge some people I have in public. The university, they put together this wonderful video with interviews with Kelly and my kids, and Hunter and Eric Jacobson is on it, and one of my professors, Bruce Longworth, and it was just so nice. And I want to thank them for appearing in that video. And I also want to send a special thanks to Karen Birch and Marianne Pierce for putting that together. It's just a monumental, beautiful thing, and it was such a special surprise. I also want to thank Webster's Assistant Chancellor and University Secretary, Janelle Wiley, who just could not have been more kind and wonderful and warm and helpful during my time in my return to St. Louis. She made sure that my family was comfortable, that I was comfortable. She was just brilliant. And I want to thank Mindy Mazur from Lentz Mazur and Associates, who got me from place to place during the PR Blitz those couple of days there in St. Louis. And Mindy's also a Muppet fan, and she was just so wonderful. So thank you, Mindy. And thanks, of course, to the Board of Trustees at Webster, Chancellor Beth Strobel, President of Webster Julian Schuster, and everybody at Webster who made my time there, my family's time there, my friends' time there so incredible. I was so very honored to return to my alma mater and to have the chance to talk a little bit about my experiences since graduating back in 1993. So we're going to close with that commencement speech that I gave to the graduating class of Webster University. It was a really special way to end all of the press for Muppets Mayhem, the traveling, the Coronation concert, seeing friends in London, and meeting Weird Al, and launching the series, and having the album come out, and most of all having my family and my friends there with me to celebrate this really cool thing that I got to do at this graduation. And I'm aware that what I get to do is something that is really cool. My job is really cool. I'm so lucky, and I'm so grateful. And I really love sharing things with you. So I appreciate you sitting through me just yammering on for 12 minutes or whatever it is. But I think it's important for us to share our stories with each other and appreciate the moments that we have. And so thank you for listening to this. And without further ado, here's the speech I gave at the Webster University commencement on May 13th, 2023.
It is my pleasure now to invite Dr. Matthew James Vogel to present today's commencement address. So, Dr. Vogel, please join us.
Whoa. Good morning, and congratulations, graduates. I want to just begin by acknowledging all of the friends and all of the family that you have here with you today, sharing this very special day with you. I've got my own family and some very special friends here today as well. And I'm so grateful. I'm going to try not to cry. So grateful and happy that we can all be together this morning. I graduated from Webster way back in 1993 with a BFA in theater, and during my tenure at this theater, I saw shows and I worked as an usher in the work-study program right here, and I also had the good fortune of acting with my friends and classmates on this very stage in shows like Three Sisters, As You Like It, and Cabaret. And since then, I have noticed a few things. The campus has transformed. It has gotten a lot bigger. It has gotten a lot fancier. When I was here, we actually held acting classes around the corner on Garden Avenue in a renovated strip mall, if you can believe it. It's true. I mean, can you believe that? Yes, Bruce. You're still there. I mean, can you believe that the students of the Sargent Conservatory of Theater Arts still get to hone their craft between an out-of-business Lucky Nails and a Subway sandwich shop? It's not bad, right? It is where great art and 6-inch tuna subs are made. Yeah, okay. If you came in late and you didn't see the beautiful video put together by Karen Birch, Marianne Pierce, and the team here at Webster that I just saw, and it was beautiful. I have the distinct privilege of being what is called a Muppet performer. And by that means that I get to play some of the world's most beloved and recognizable characters. From 6-year-old Big Bird on Sesame Street, to the most famous banjo-playing frog in the world, Kermit the Frog. Thank you. Oh, there's more. From a vampire with an unquenchable thirst for numbers, to over a dozen other Muppet characters with unusual names like Forgetful Jones, Crazy Harry, and Dr. Julius Strangepork. Yeah, I know. Now, to be clear, with a few exceptions, I did not originate any of the characters that I play, but I am the current steward of those characters, and that means that it is my job to maintain the integrity and give these Muppets their soul, because I'm the only performer in the world of those characters until one day, very far in the future, when I am a really old man, I decide to pass that honor along to another much younger Muppet performer. And you know, when people find out that I work for the Muppets, they usually say something like, "Oh my gosh, you work for the Muppets, you have an awesome job." And I say, "I know I do have an awesome job, it's an awesome job." And then they have questions, a lot of questions, like, is it hard to keep your arm up in the air? Yes, it is hard to keep your arm up in the air. Is Big Bird heavy? Yes, it is heavy. It's 4,000 feathers. That doesn't sound heavy, but trust me, it's heavy. Is it hot inside Big Bird? Okay, well, just, wrap yourself up in a bunch of comforters and try to do some light cardio and, you're gonna get a little steamy. Who does the voice? Me. I do the voice. All Muppet performers do the voices of the characters they play. So, when you hear Big Bird, that's me.
Gee, I heard you're graduating. I guess that means you know all of your letters and numbers. Good job.
So, thanks. Or when you hear Kermit the Frog, that is me also. Hi-ho, Kermit the Frog here, and I just want to say, congratulations, graduates of Webster University class of 2023! Yay! Thank you. It's a cheap party trick, but it works every time. So, how did I find myself in this weird, wonderfully unique niche job that I am talking to you all about this morning? When I was a kid, I was a huge fan of the Muppets. It didn't matter whether it was Kermit the Frog, Fozzie Bear, Gonzo, Miss Piggy on the Muppet Show, or Big Bird, Bert and Ernie, Oscar the Grouch, and Grover on Sesame Street. I couldn't get enough, you know? And it got to the point that when I was watching the Muppets, I started to wonder what was happening, you know, below the frame there, under the puppets, and who were these people that were performing these characters, and how did they learn to do what they were doing? And I was so inspired by these characters and by their creator, Jim Henson, that as a fourth grader, I built my own puppets out of t-shirts and masking tape, and I had no idea what I was doing or how to do it, but nobody showed me, I just had to do it. So it's what I did. And I built these terrible puppets, which, to be fair, were probably pretty good for a 10-year-old. And but I built these terrible puppets, and I entertained the kids in our neighborhood and at my school until the 9th grade talent show that my wonderful wife, Kelly, mentioned in the video. Now, it wasn't like everybody was booing Kelly. Not everybody. It wasn't like a universal boo. But that's what I heard, though. And that's how it felt, you know? And that's how it works, right? Anything negative it pierces right through the positive. And so this thing that I loved doing, it wasn't cool or respected or appreciated or whatever. And for me, I decided not to do puppets anymore. I put them away, and I packed them away out of fear or embarrassment or both. It didn't matter at the time because that was it. I mean, that could have been it. But thankfully, my parents enrolled me at acting classes at a children's theater. And there I met people that I connected with and that were interested in creativity and acting like I was. And there were acting teachers there and in high school too that encouraged me to explore my imagination. And that children's theater and the friends that I met there led me to auditioning and being accepted here at Webster University at the Conservatory. And when I got here, it was a place where my creativity was set free. It was where I learned, and where we all learned, how to work together in a group, whether as actors in a show or on a stage crew. And in acting classes, we learned how to collaborate with scene partners. In movement class, we learned discipline and how to carry our own bodies. And in Ballet 1, we learned how to endure wearing a dance belt for more than 80 minutes. For the uninitiated, a dance belt is a theater major's version of a jockstrap. So, anyway, Webster also surrounded me with like-minded creatives, including my roommate, Chad Harris, class of '93. Chad, are you here? Just give it like a whoop or something if you're here. Yeah, well, I thought he was going to be here. That's okay. Anyway, in our spare time, Chad and I wrote scripts, and we shot goofy movies with names like Tubehead and Phobomb, The Man in His Dream, and it starred all of our friends in the Conservatory program. And Chad asked me one summer if I wanted to help him with a puppet show called the Gilda and Guppy Water Safety Show, and we would go around to all the daycares in St. Louis, and so I did. And before I knew it, I had reconnected with my love of puppetry. So much so that as a senior, I decided that I was going to shoot a puppetry audition video and send it off to the Jim Henson Company in New York City. And a couple of months later, guess what? I got a very nice rejection letter. Yeah, so it was kind of like the talent show all over again, except this time from the company of the man that I had admired my whole life, which is kind of a tough pill, if you can imagine. And I graduated, like I'm sure some of you theater majors, with the thought of making some money and moving to New York to become a working actor on Broadway and movies and on television, and all like that kind of stuff. And Kelly and I were on our way to New York when she saw that ad with the picture of Kermit the Frog looking for puppeteers. And despite the rejection letter the year before, I answered the ad. And now here I am 27 years later, the guy that plays the frog that's in that ad. That is bananas, right? But you know, I wasn't going to let the rejection stop me from trying again and dreaming big things. Okay, I am the first to admit that I am so lucky. My career aligns with that thing that I love doing so much as a kid, and that could happen to any one of you. And it will It really will for some of you. But all of you should keep your eyes, your minds, and your hearts open. Some things you are going to be able to control, and other things you are not going to be able to control. But if you keep true to yourself, and you are malleable to opportunity and the expectation that anything can happen, then those questions, that you have now, that feeling of uncertainty, it might not carry as much weight. Or maybe it will. But that's cool too. You just have to keep showing up. Keep showing up for yourself. Especially once you have packed up your car and you are headed for whatever it is that is the next step for you. Kermit the Frog said this in his book, Before You Leap. Yes, Kermit the Frog wrote a book. He said this, as long as we remain true to our best selves, we can't go wrong. It doesn't matter if you're a frog, or a pig, or a bear, or even a person. It doesn't matter if you're a big fish in a little pond, or a small fish in a big pond. You're you, and you matter. And before you know it, you're right where you belong. Look, I know that you all have questions about what comes next or what tomorrow has in store for you. But right now, I think it is important for all of you, for all of us, just to take a moment to appreciate this right here, right now, okay? I mean, to make it to this day, you had to overcome personal obstacles and global obstacles. Like, hey, remember we had a pandemic. You forced you to adapt and learn how to endure, to continue learning. And that is insane, but you all did it. So let's acknowledge that you are here. That's right. Yes. So let's acknowledge that you are all sitting here at this very special time because you've already accomplished big things. And there are big things yet to come. But right now, take a moment. You've earned it. Just take a breath and let it all in. Don't forget to let it all out either. So for me, when I come to the present and I reflect and what comes to mind is that I am appreciative of the time that I spent here at Webster, the hard work, the fun, and even this moment right now. I'm grateful for all of those who have walked along the path with me. My parents, my brother Jason, my wife Kelly, our kids, Jack, Hunter, Lila, Keaton, and Flynn, and my fellow classmates, of course. I acknowledge the obstacles that I overcame, the talent show boos and the rejection letters and the self-doubt that came along with both of those. And I celebrate the lessons that I learned from my peers, my teachers, my friends. It's no surprise to me that to this very day, I still use the skills that I learned here at Webster in my job with the Muppets. And in my almost 30 years of working with the Muppets, I have learned some things from the characters that I carry with me every day as well. I'm going to tell you some of those things. So Big Bird taught me to have the wide-eyed openness and optimism of a child, to be curious and welcome everybody as a friend. That it's not as simple as it sounds. I mean, but it should be, right? It's so easy to let ourselves become jaded by the world, by our jobs, our relationships. But Big Bird never is. He's always looking for the best in people and situations, even when it's tough. The Count. Well, we all know that the Count loves numbers. Counting is his jam. And to obsess about something that you love so much that it becomes the thing that you have to do more than anything else in the world, well, that kind of drive can get you far if you use it in the right way. That is one wonderful piece of advice. No lightning? Yeah. And of course, Kermit the Frog. What did I learn from him? Well, there is a quote from Jerry Jewell, who was the head writer of The Muppet Show. And he said this, Kermit is the eye in the middle of the hurricane. And, you know, he's always in control. Sometimes just barely, but he's always in control. And the interesting thing about it is, of course, he created the hurricane. Kermit's pretty unflappable. I mean, sure, from time to time he loses it, but he has the ability not to let the craziness overwhelm him. And this is super hard for me, but I try to keep it in mind by asking myself, what would Kermit do? But there was another thing that I learned from the frog, and that is patience. When penguins are flying through the air and Miss Piggy is demanding a solo, it takes patience not to let the world come tumbling down on you. And speaking of patience, for me, Kermit is like the pinnacle of the Muppet universe, you know? And I was a Muppet performer for 20 years before I became Kermit the Frog. 20 years. Now, I love all of the characters that I get to play, I truly do. But when I became Kermit, it was another level somehow. All those years of collaboration and discipline and learning and hard work and showing up for myself had paid off. And I never had to wear a dance belt, not once. So, patience. Before I go, I just want to leave you with something that my favorite frog sings at the end of the Muppet movie, surrounded by his friends and his family. He says, "Life's like a movie, write your own ending. Keep believing, keep pretending, we've done just what we set out to do. Thanks to the lovers, the dreamers, and you." I want all of you to write your own ending and your own beginnings too. So keep believing, keep pretending. Congratulations to all the lovers and dreamers and this remarkable class of 2023. Thank you so much.
Below the Frame is a Welcome Matt production produced by me, Matt Vogel. The theme song was written by Stephanie DeBruzzo and myself and performed by my band, The Mighty Weaklings. Thanks to Dave Holteen at DaveHolteenDesign.com. He created our podcast art. You can follow me on Instagram at WelcomeMattV or search Matt Vogel. I post things every now and again, and it'll help you know when new episodes of this podcast, for example, are coming out. If you are sharing podcasts, please let somebody know about this one. And also, if you have a few seconds, just rate and review this one. I'm sure that pleases the podcast gods or something. You can find Below the Frame wherever you get your podcasts, and we are now a video podcast on YouTube, so you can see our faces if that's something that you want to do. Thanks everybody out there for listening. I am Matt Vogel, and we will see you next time when we go Below the Frame.
Go, go, go.